Hello. I hope you and yours are well today. The church here is abuzz with preparations for the annual Oyster Roast, a fundraiser with the proceeds going this year to the Boys and Girls Club. And I guess you've heard we've sold out. This being our first roast since the COVID lockdown, we had no idea what to prepare for. The enthusiastic response has been a surprise, albeit a very happy one for our fundraising. The scientist Carl Sagan, late in his life, became interested in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and the search for other beings out there in the universe who might be communicating with us. Radio telescopes were set up, and they listened to radio waves throughout the universe to see if someone was trying to communicate with Earth. And somebody asked Carl Sagan, what if we never get any messages? It's a possibility, he said, but it's a depressing thought to me that there might not be anyone in the universe trying to call us. Our Christian faith tells us that there is some being in the universe calling us, that God does not stand aloof from us and is not indifferent to us, but communicates with us, summons us, calls us. Two brothers, Peter and Andrew, were fishermen, and one day they were casting their nets as Jesus walked on the shoreline. He saw them out there in the boat, and he called them. "Follow me," he said, "and I'll make you fish for people." And immediately they got out of the boat and followed him. No questions asked. Then he went down the shoreline a little bit more, and he saw two other brothers, James and John. They were in their boat mending their nets, and he said to them the same thing, "Follow me." And immediately, no questions asked, they got out of the boat and followed him. So powerful in Jesus was this call of God, and so hungry they were for someone to call them that they stepped out of the boat and they followed. Now, sometimes we think, well, only bishops, priests, and deacons, professional clergy get called. Pastors have a call, but everybody else has a job. That's not true. God calls everybody. And maybe you've experienced that call, but if not, I invite you to listen in a new and deliberate way and know that God's calling you, maybe even right now. Well, how would you know if you're being called? How would you know how to hear it? How would you know how to recognize a God call? Sometimes this call touches deep down inside of us in those secret places in our lives that give us the most joy. If you're honest with yourself, there's some place in your life that gives you the greatest joy. Maybe it's that you like music, or you like to sing or play an instrument. Maybe you like to talk with other people. Maybe you like to work with children or youth, or maybe you like to teach. Sometimes the call of God works as the Spirit stirs up our joy and passion in that secret place in our lives. Barbara Brown Taylor writes about a time in her life when she was struggling with her sense of call. And one midnight, she says, she fell down on her knees in prayer and said, "Okay, God, you need to level with me. What do you want me to do? What are you calling me to do?" She said she felt a very powerful response, felt God saying, "Do what pleases you. Belong to me, but do what pleases you." She said that struck her as very strange, that God's call would actually touch that place of her greatest joy, that she could be called to do the thing that pleases her the most. Another Christian writer, Frederick Buechner, says, "Our calling is where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." Now think about that. Our calling is where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. But there are other times when God's call does not come so much from inside of us as from a place outside of us. God's call may come through the pain and the need of the world, calling to that place deep within us that, if we let it, longs to respond and lead us to follow and live into the life we were created to live, and to love wholeheartedly in the way we were made to, and longs to find the deep gladness that meaningful service in God's name brings. Sometimes we're being called to places we never dreamed we'd go, to do things we never dreamed we'd do, to say things we never dreamed we'd say. And certainly these fisher folk gave up a lot. But the story sure doesn't stress that. The minds of this quartet seem fixed not on what they were leaving, but on what they were joining. Future possibilities invite them out of their daily existence, which seems suddenly pale. And somehow in that moment of their turning to follow, the miracle happened. Their lives flowed in the same direction as God's life. And when that happens, we see the kingdom. And they found themselves healing the sick and confronting the powers that be and proclaiming the great good news. Just 4 fisher folk. Jesus is walking along your shoreline today and calling you. See you soon.